The Hustleshare podcast is sponsored by One CFO, the Philippines' leading fractional CFO services provider for startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. Experience the power of tech-enabled, efficient, affordable, and expert-led fractional CFO services. Let One CFO handle your finances so you can focus on growing your business. Book your free CFO consultation today.
Cisco wanted me to serve the global financials. So I was in the Jersey City office of Lehman Brothers the day they declared bankruptcy.
Oh my God.
So Lehman was next to Bear Stearns, right? So Bear first and then Lehman,
Yep.
right? And then the too big to fail thing happened, right? So, people crying, throwing, ripping papers to shred. It was literally chaos in the office.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Baetyong.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Hustleshare podcast. We are now in our anniversary season. I've been talking nonstop for the past 6 years, but in reality, I've been really being madaldal. Shout out to Dara Everyone again for being there since my kadaldalan days. But today, it's a very special day. You see all of these awards. These are, if you are listening, imagine na lang, there's a lot of awards. Or look at Spotify because there's a lot, or YouTube pala. This is one of the top dogs in the industry. They are a key cog over the startup ecosystem way before it became a startup ecosystem, all the way from the top, like the likes of MVP and whatnot. But today, we really do a deep dive over what PLDT Enterprise does. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show the Senior Vice President and the head of the Enterprise and International Business of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. Jojo Gendrano.
Yay!
Welcome to the show, Jojo.
Thank you. Happy to be here. First of all, congratulations on your 6th anniversary.
Thank you.
I am in awe that you've been able to keep this up every week for the last 6 years, and I wish and I pray that this continues even with a lot more frequency. Kasi the importance of the startup ecosystem in the Philippines is immense. I think we need to continue to do more. From our perspective in PLDT Enterprise, we deal a lot, especially our international arm. We deal a lot with the hyperscalers.
Yes.
We are so jealous of all of the motions outside of the Philippines, all of the investments that are going into Thailand, Malaysia, obviously Indonesia, obviously started with Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan. And we believe a big part of the hyperscalers to take notice of the Philippines is the richness of the startup ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And we are committed to ensure that that we continue to preach to let the big boys outside notice the importance, the skill sets, and the potential of the Filipino, and of which the startups play a very big role there.
I totally agree. And again, you guys are key cogs. So I'll before I ask you the $1 million question, which in a bit, I just want to give a shout out because I remember vividly. Again, shout out to Dara Everyone. You have so much shout outs here. I don't know where that girl is. So, shout out. We'll figure that out. But I remember, I'm a 3-time startup founder now. First startup failed, whatever. And then the second startup, one of the few people that took notice over what we're doing. We're a very, very mini startup back then. This is what, 2017? 2017, 2018. This is in your Manda office. Okay. My startup back then was still Chatbot PH. I'm not sure if we got acquired now or not yet. But Dara took notice of what we're doing, saw the potential. Chatbots now obviously is a key part of what we do in real life. But she allowed us to actually share what we're doing because we're pioneers. And that just shows how much foresight you guys have here in this arm of PLDT or what you're doing. So, and that's what I want to do a deep dive with. But I need to ask you first.
Sure.
The $1 million question.
Okay.
Jojo, what's your hustle?
So, if I may tell my story. So I'd say, I always tell the folks, I'm a self-proclaimed geek. I think I draw perspective from being able to understand how things work. I am naturally curious. I do not stop until I understand how, what drives certain things, what are the levers, what are, And I guess part of that also is that's one part is being a geek.
Yep.
A geek, an engineer, a developer. The other
Love it.
part is being lucky. I think in my career, I've been very fortunate to have been to have been in multiple roles, to be in multiple perspectives, be it in the Philippines, outside. And I think that plus, I was born into a telco family. So my parents are both, their first jobs were in PLDT.
What?
I used to roam the halls of the company as a kid.
This was your playground?
Yeah, this was my playground. So my father and mother immersed me in terms of all things telco. Right, even like I would join my father on trips. I would forego summer vacations and would join my father on trips. For example, I would sit beside him in forums. I didn't understand the word back then or the industry, but over time it got me to understand. And I think why we're fortunate also in PLDT is we continue to be a relevant organization. And as accelerated during the pandemic, the importance of being connected. Right.
Wow.
Essentially, if you're not connected, if you're not connected, you don't exist.
Yep.
Right. So all businesses today, all motions, at least has a digital component to it.
Right.
And us being a key enabler of that is immensely empowering.
Yep.
Right. So just been fortunate. Being able to, I started off, I was an engineer in college. So ECE, pasang-awa, right? So, but I was able, I did not study though.
Okay.
So I don't know why.
I relied on my peers.
I took the board exam thinking that it was going to be easy. I got to the exam, exams. I saw the question. I'm like, OMG. I was lucky I was able to pass. But I was already saving up back then to go to the States for continuing education. Was fortunate to get into UPenn. So I was
Ivy Leaguer. Oh my God.
Ivy League. It was
Every time I meet an Ivy Leaguer, I get goosebumps.
I tried to hug ENIAC. So ENIAC is the first computer. It's still there in inside the Moore School of Engineering.
Okay.
Right. And also, I got to meet MVP for the first time in UPenn.
In Penn?
Yes. So MVP before used
This is pre-Hong Kong MVP? Or Hong Kong MVP
this was already Hong Kong. And so this was circa 2000.
Okay.
I think for a few years, MVP would go to Philly to meet with the Penn Pinoys. And
there's a thing as a Pinoy.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. Shout out, you know who you are.
Okay na lang, Pinoy na. But
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. So I met him then. He may not remember this, but he offered me a job when I met him. I told him, boss, give me some time. I'm here to understand. I'm here to learn. And I called on him 13 years later. Right. But during my time in the States, it was, I was fortunate to join a good firm in Goldman Sachs. So one of the most prominent investment banking firms in the world. I worked in technology. I got bored, to be honest. That I was
in Goldman Sachs.
In Goldman Sachs, right?
In New York.
bored and stressed, right?
In Wall Street.
In Wall Street. Well, I was also like a timid geek back then, and I really wanted to, I don't know, to be a better speaker, to be a better influencer. And a wise man told me that sales is one of the most important skill sets to have.
Absolutely, I agree.
Right. And I budol, exactly. So I went out of my comfort zone. I took a job in Verizon business, actually. What? Right.
Okay.
So as a salesperson. Right. So,
wait, I want to deep dive here.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that. And again, indefinitely we already got to the time machine.
Sorry.
That's fine. But I want to understand now.
Yes.
Okay, so you walk me through these things. I just want to do a couple of things because I'll go back a little bit. I'll start back a little bit. When you see very important role models, which are your parents, because they're first generation PLDT pioneers here.
Yep.
And hustling isn't taught by saying, it's also taught by observing and doing.
Yep.
I'll start first with what you've learned being, again, second generation PLDT employee here. I want to understand what you saw them do. in the little things that they do? Because you even were part of meetings or field work or out of town meetings. What are the foundational things that you saw them do that you inadvertently now do yourself because you saw them do it too?
Wow. So essentially what comes to mind really is the interactions with people. It's very important. How to run teams, how to deliver outcomes, how to deliver value, seeing that in motion. Say, for example, my mom, so we live in Parañaque.
Okay.
And one year my mom was assigned to be the head of the office in Clark.
What?
And this was
without Skyway Stage 3?
Without Skyway. This was after Pinatubo.
Oh my
also.
God, are you kidding me?
So my mom would drive, sometimes herself, sometimes with a driver, 2 hours per day per way through Lahar to get to Clark.
Oh my God.
Right? And once she gets to Clark, back then long distance was still big. Long distance was the cash cow. People would pay $3 a minute to make a call, to make a long distance call. You see people lining up in front of the office from morning till night because they want to reach out and call their loved ones.
Oh my
right?
God.
So just the, while it's really archaic by today's standards, but the way people felt during that time as they connected with families, I think it was all very worth it for my mom.
Love it.
Right. So it's that and my dad helping form the foundations of, say, how telcos all over the world would need to connect to each other, the standards, the protocols. I think they went. He and his team went on trainings to try to. It's just the journey of delivering value, right? And at the end of the day, I think you can also think of it as what a startup would do, right? Because there's problems that out there that need to be solved. You don't always need the scale of a telco. Sometimes it's even better that you don't have the scale of the telco because you're naturally hungry, you're naturally driven.
Right.
And sometimes that's, potentially that's where some of the breakthroughs happen. Maybe later on we'll talk about the DeepSeek story.
Of course.
Right?
So yeah, and we're going to do a deep dive, obviously, when we do talk about, the tech and what you guys are building here.
Yes.
But I want to now jump one more time onto your pen. Actually, no, not just a pen. I want to now jump into you coming out of Goldman to do sales. Because again, first of all, this guy is just becoming super duper humble. But you don't get the pen and all that if you don't have, again, we say he's lucky. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Okay, so you were prepared by default. But I love how you went contrarian. Because a lot of people, when they go Goldman Sachs, I feel like there's a window, and I've had a lot of people who've been bankers, investment bankers. I think there's let me know if this is correct or wrong, that if you stay long enough, you're going to be a lifer. And there's only a small window that if you're going to really take what you learn in investment banking or in the big banks in America, you have to do it at a certain window, because if not, you'll never leave the nest. You're gonna be there forever. What compelled you? Again, you were bored, but why sales of all time of all things, and why Verizon? And also, mind you, this is happening pre the 08, 07, before the Big Short happened.
Yep.
Because when the Big Short happened, boom. So walk me through that bull run of the early 2000, mid 2000.
Well, to be honest, I really didn't. At that time, I was young. And to be honest, I picked Goldman. I had, when I graduated from Penn, I had other better offers.
Oh, wow.
Right? But I picked Goldman because I knew, the brand, the legend, the exposure, being in the in the den of a company where all 30,000 employees were literally type A.
Whoa.
Right? And what's exciting also in that environment, half of Goldman's employees are in technology.
What?
So you think of Goldman as an investment bank, but I think of Goldman also as a technology company.
Wow.
So it wasn't a plan to be a lifer, but I guess my mindset back then was never to burn bridges, establish good lifelong connections, right? And I can always come back, which did happen, right? So
you did, okay,
right? So, but just take it. Have a goal. Continue to be in a mode where you'd want to learn. The jump to sales was very uncomfortable.
Yes.
Imagine, you were in technology, you're the king, meaning, right? People go to you, they try to sell to you, right? And now you're trying to sell something,
No, no,
right?
the fence.
It's but it learned me how to, it was very important getting out of my comfort zone, right? Talking to people more, influencing, understanding business cases beyond technology, understanding value, understanding what really matters, right?
Right. Last few questions before we take our first break. So
Sure.
after Goldman, you did Verizon and Cisco.
Yes.
Two big companies.
Yes.
And also, right at the behemoth, this is where social media was just starting to bubble and whatnot. But I always talk about skill stack in any form of success. You need to have not just one skill, but a couple of really top-notch skills that are stacked on top of each other to be able to do that. So if you said that Verizon and Cisco taught you, or Verizon at least taught you sales, what did you accumulate in the Goldman, Verizon, Cisco combo in terms of skill stack? Because eventually you said it, you went back to Goldman, but before you went full circle, what were the skill sets that you mastered on each and every stop?
Okay, so first thing that comes to mind is, especially in technical roles, right? You have to, while people say it's good to be, especially as you go up, that it's good to be a jack of all trades. But in certain cases, there are things that you have to master inside and out and be better than the next guy or gal. Right? What you know, especially in technology, is a differentiator. Taking the time to learn, to understand is very important. So that's number one. So investing in yourself and learning and putting the efforts to really understand.
Correct.
Second is then tying what you understand to value. So you may be the best in a particular technology, but if you don't have a good understanding of what benefit that brings to a business, be it operational efficiency, be it competitive differentiation, be it faster time to market, it makes it hard to apply. And when you're not able to apply something that you're good at, it gets frustrating.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's, just that, pray hard also, meaning, I worked long hours back then. Like we would at Wall Street, we're lucky that there's this benefit that if you work past 9, you get free food and you get driven by a limousine home. What? So out of 240 working days, I probably got 200 stacks of those vouchers because I worked up past 9 for.
Did you claim them at least, or you just?
No. So meaning the vouchers mean I worked late, so I had to use the service.
Nice.
So nothing beats hard work, right?
Yes.
It's also important, right? That we what I said earlier, we invest in ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's a key skill. I always say it. I remember we were in a mixer last year with Paolo Campos for Sinigang Valley, which, by the way, you guys should be part of. I'm telling now. Okay, there you go. And Paolo was welcoming this batch of interns for BCG. So I was like, you guys are the luckiest interns in the world to be interning in one of these companies, BCG, in the Philippines. And then these kids, of course, were drinking beers and whatnot. And then these kids was asking Paolo something. I didn't really overhear it, but Paolo was saying. And then Paolo goes up to me and goes, "Hey, Ron, what's the most important skill that person that wants to be in startups or what to excel in life needs to be? It's the ability." Apparently we had the same answer. It's the ability to learn on your own.
Yep.
Because in school we're taught to basically be taught on rely on a teacher to teach us what we know, and whatever the hell and how they interpret that, that's our source of information. But in real life, especially in technology, if it's being taught in a course setup, you're too late.
Yep.
Because it's already being coursed, per se. The best ones is you need to be ahead of the curve. You need to know the pulse right before when it pops.
Yep.
Like one of the regrets I have, like 2013, 2014, I was in a dev shop. Proud Cloud was the name. And I was surrounded with folks who were investing in Bitcoin. And I was like, what the hell are these guys doing? Bitcoin, what? Now every
You
time I
regret
think
it.
about it, I feel bad about myself because now it's 100K plus plus. I didn't get one. Like, what?
But if we may
We're
not
talking about
have,
$100 Bitcoin before.
but we may not have Hustleshare anymore
But still-
if you bought Bitcoin. I'm just kidding.
But still, diba, those things that you need to be ahead of the curve, and
Yes.
it's a lifelong. If you master that skill of learning, finding out what to learn, and teaching yourself without being dependent on anyone.
Yep.
Because there's now Google University, YouTube University, Chat GPT University. You can ask anything anywhere, and nothing's stopping you from the source of information.
Correct.
Yeah.
And now, if you don't do it, it's rather than being average or being left behind.
Voila. You're always going to be middle of the pack if
Yep.
you do not invest in yourself. I love that.
Agree.
Now, last question before we take our first break, because after we take a break, we will now be talking about you coming full circle also,
Okay.
going back to PLDT. But again, you went back to Goldman Sachs, but also the timing, I want to be very specific. July 2008, the big short has happened. You stayed here for 4 years, 10 months.
Yep.
What made you go full circle and go back? And what was the climate back then during that time? Because my God, everything was in shambles.
Yep.
If there is a forest fire or a wildfire in LA, think of that nature, but the whole financial ecosystem in the US.
Yep.
That was that. What was that like?
So just a thought about, a memory that popped in my mind was, I was still in Cisco
Okay.
then. Because I worked in Goldman, Cisco wanted me, I was still also in sales.
Okay.
Cisco wanted me to serve the global financials. So I was in the Jersey City office of Lehman Brothers
Okay.
the day they declared bankruptcy.
Oh my God.
So Lehman
Are you
was
kidding
next
me?
to Bear Stearns, right? So Bear first and then
What?
Lehman.
Yep.
Right, and then the too big to fail thing happened, right? So, people crying, throwing, ripping papers to shred. It was literally chaos in the office.
Wow.
Uh,
and you were there.
I was there, though. I was lucky. I wasn't with Lehman, but I felt for the team. Because
Yeah, of course.
I was successful. I was doing okay in Cisco because I was serving Lehman properly,
Yeah.
right? And just it's chaos, and everyone. I think by now already understood or has an understanding as to why that happened.
Mhm.
And it's essentially, I'll get in trouble for saying this. Part of it driven by greed, by
Of course.
excess,
It always is.
right?
Mhm.
And greed, excess will cause the bubble to pop,
Yep.
right? And just being in a situation that we just have to learn from these experiences. It was bad for the world. A lot of people suffered, lost their jobs, but end of the day, we have to continue on. We have to carry on. And again, I think this is the 6th time I'm going to use the word luck.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to be in that perspective, to learn, right? And then, given that I kept close ties with Goldman, sometime after that, I was asked by Goldman to come back,
Okay.
right? And
What was that like after the bubble burst though?
not as good as, after the bubble burst, actually, it was still fairly good from a compensation perspective, investments in technology, right? Because it was still important for companies to invest for that
Of course. Yeah.
for that competitive advantage. It was harder to do business,
Yes.
leverage rules had to be really
Yep. There's a lot of scared money at that time.
That's right. That's right. So, most of the companies back then that made big money were the companies that took the most risks. But if you're
Yes.
being curtailed from taking risks, it's very hard to.
Correct.
So then that was also the advent of algorithmic trading. So we talk about AI, but it was interesting hearing about Wall Street companies hiring math PhDs, right? Finding quants, right? Quants and dark pools back then,
Right.
right? So that I guess that replaced it continued to drive interest in technology within Wall Street. That's why folks in technology were still doing fairly well. I think where it started to happen, I think if you talk to most folks in technology now in banking, that most would say that the glory days are over in terms of big bonuses, big raises. Things have normalized, and I think because technology has been the great equalizer there, right? Before, probably very few companies like Wall Street had access to the best technologies, best people, but now, talk about Walmart, talk about Coke, talk about Tesla, right? Right. So many industries now continue to to thrive, especially those that knew how to grab the technology bull by the horns.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, just look at Amazon. Just over the past, say, decade alone.
Yeah.
They probably just grew the most exponential way, right?
That's right.
More than anything. That's obviously hinged on primarily technology.
That's
they
right.
were a freaking online bookstore.
That's right. That's
look
right.
at them now, right? It's
That's
just, if not the most valuable, one of the most valuable.
Correct.
Good luck who wins, Bezos or Musk in the end.
Yes.
All right, now let's take our first break, and when we come back, we will now talk about Jojo's return as like MacArthur. He shall return, and he went back to PLDT. And of course, how his career progressed. And obviously, we're going to be talking about the deep dive on what PLDT Enterprise does and what's in it for the startup ecosystem. But let's talk about that more after the break. Hey hustlers, are you a busy entrepreneur juggling a ton of tasks while trying to keep your finances in check? Thinking of raising money from investors or lenders but have no idea how to start? Well, you are not alone. Managing business finances is tough. But don't worry, I got something for you. Introducing One CFO, the leading fractional CFO service and technology provider for SMEs, startups, and scale-ups in the Philippines. Whether you need help with financial management, fundraising strategy, or scaling up operations, their team of top-tier CFOs and their game-changing CFO tech platform have got you covered. And they're legit because I've heard about them from a lot of YC startups actually that got founded in the Philippines, because they've helped a ton of VC-backed startups, scale-ups, and some of the best SMEs in the country reach new heights. One CFO is your strategic financial partner, providing the insights, guidance, and the tools you need to make smarter decisions and drive growth. Plus, they offer personalized support tailored to what your business needs, no matter the size. And what's the best part? It won't break the bank. One CFO services are affordable and accessible to businesses of all sizes. So if you're ready to level up your business and finances, what are you waiting for? Schedule a free CFO consultation with One CFO. Visit onecfoph.co today. That's onecfoph.co today to get your free CFO consultation. And we're back to the break. We are still with Jojo Gendrano, who then told us the amazing journey he had while he was in the States. And again, Kaya Founders has a term for this. Apparently, Pinoys that go overseas and come back, you guys are called sea turtles.
Okay.
Why sea turtle? Because when a sea turtle basically gets hatched in a beach somewhere, when they go all over the sea to swim with the jellyfish or whatnot, you always come back to the same beach to hatch more eggs, right? So that's why.
Those that survive.
Yes, and whatnot. And again, procreate and create the next generation per se. But I'm very interested on the perspective of, again, you're killing it in Goldman Sachs. But what compelled you to come back? Because there's one thing, right? One thing about the people that I've gotten exposure to, and the people that really see the big picture and also take the biggest leaps and give the biggest progress, always come from a point of view of seeing what it's like overseas. Because even if you're a super good founder here or employee, it doesn't really matter, or a key exec, if you're hyper-focused lang on Filipino perspective, and you don't see the patterns of, hey, this would have worked in Malaysia or Nigeria or Kenya and whatever, and you don't see the big picture, majority of the time, you have tapado. Tunnel vision.
That's right.
You're going to end up and creating a microscopic solution for a micro problem that will not scale. So 2 things I want to find out. How did the urge to come home come back? And when you found that urge to come home, what was the mindset coming back? Knowing what you've seen now in the investment banking point of view, being on sales in telco in the US, what was that mindset like?
Sure. So, it was actually very easy for me because before I left the Philippines, I was already intent on coming back.
So there's a pull na talaga.
There was already a pull. The talk with MVP also was very special to me. Also,
right? The inception there.
Yes.
Then you put a totem.
Yes, and this was back in 2012. I got my U.S. citizenship.
You were.
I was still single back then.
All right.
So it was a fairly, and the Philippine economy was doing fairly well back then.
Of course.
Right. When I came back, I actually only interviewed with PLDT. I was that.
Wow.
I don't know. I only interviewed with the PLDT.
That's like the Luca and AD trade.
Right.
They
So
only talk to each other.
yes.
Okay.
Oh my God, that trade, right?
Another podcast,
Yes.
Sports podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So I was fortunate to get. So to answer your question,
Yeah.
it was very easy for me to
Wow. Okay.
to come back. I only interviewed with PLDT. I was fortunate to have been offered 3 roles.
Okay.
And I took the role of being in Enterprise as a head of sales for the banks in the Philippines.
Wow.
And my mindset then was I had been away for 13, 14 years.
Okay.
I knew no one. Most of my contacts were based in the US.
Right.
And taking an outward role would enable me to reestablish connections with the community. So it was a good way for me to learn and catch up. Right. I didn't treat it from the perspective that I have so much to share, that I know so much. It was more on, I need to catch up. I've been away for so long. I think I have developed good muscle memory in terms of learning how to react when certain challenges come up. But it was really that catch-up mindset. I wanted to catch up when I came back, and I was fortunate, lucky, 7th time.
There you go.
That it was an easy decision for me.
I love it. Now, again, banking, easily. I mean, right now you see the end result of how banking has progressed. But you're seeing over, say, the pandemic, a lot of the banks that were ready, obviously, made a killing, like QRPH and all these things. But a lot of these did not happen during the pandemic itself. There's a lot of free work that did this, because I remember 2016 when we were doing chatbots, dude, the conversation, I was like, hey, can you deploy your chatbot on-prem? I'm like, what? Why can I fucking put a cloud solution on-prem?
Yes.
That does not make sense. And there weren't LLMs back then yet. Right? 2016, 2017. How the hell am I supposed to do that? Everything was still on-prem, and there's so many things that are on-prem. And I'm looking at all right, what language are you guys? Some guys are still using COBOL. I'm like, huh? In 2016, COBOL? That's crazy. So what was the ecosystem back then? Because again, if that was you trying to catch up, you're also going to be dealt with cards that were basically laid right before you even came in.
Yep.
And how did you chip away on such a gargantuan problem? If again, I'm not gonna use it, but it's technically a job of digital transformation to get them over that hump, for them to be ready for bigger leaps.
Yep. So first of all, when I went back into banking in the Philippines, I felt like a fish out of water, to be honest.
Okay.
Because my exposure in Goldman was mainly on the institutional side of the business.
Okay.
And coming back to the Philippines, I quickly realized Philippines is really a big retail banking market.
Yes.
Right? A lot of branches, a lot of transactions. Right? So I had to really learn that. Again, part of selling and adding value is establishing the relationships.
Of course.
Being there when they need you, but better understanding what they need, so that we go to our customers and try to offer up how we can help. And I think it was the advantage of being a telco, again, back to the relevance of connectivity, was near the start. So this was back 2013, 2014. All of the branches already needed, given that it was a very retail branch banking type, all of the branches needed a connection and needed a phone line. That was a good way in. We call it our unfair advantage in PLDT, but
of course,
because we know the ecosystem, we know where their locations are.
Yep.
We know, we have a good perspective into the environment. Then we can start pivoting into other areas. We can add value: cloud, data center, cybersecurity,
cross-sell,
productivity tools, and such. So what was interesting though was the transition as we were exiting the pandemic.
Okay.
Banks needed to really invest in technology to serve their customers better, cloud was soaring. The
I don't even carry cash anymore.
BSP came out with ways to really accelerate, right? And it drove another inflection point. Because the connectivity mode that the banks were being served pre-pandemic were obsolete coming into the pandemic.
Right.
And it then caused triggered another opportunity for the telcos to add value to the banks.
Got it.
Right. And just, being there, having those conversations, tends to then open up a lot more discussions and conversations. And again, very fortunate to be a relevant organization to this day.
Okay, now I'm gonna go through this because we've been doing this for a long time, multiple, obviously climbing up the ladder, and I don't think this is the end. There's so much more that you can go up to. But I want to understand. So you came in 2013, VP and head corporate relationship management.
Yep.
Obviously, you became first VP and head enterprise core business solutions, SVP for enterprise and international business, even up to become CTO and SVP of IT.
Yep.
So walk me through. What are the key transformations internally muna over the offerings? Because you cannot sell what you don't have.
Yep.
And you cannot basically solve problems that you have not solved inside for, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not, correct me if I'm wrong, PLDT is not coming in, hey, buy internet from us.
Yep.
It's not. It's a different, it's a custom-made solution with an arsenal of products that will be attached to it. How did you evolve as a professional, along with the problems that you also were trying to solve and the products you were offering as well?
Yep. So I think the journey for me was going back to investing in ourselves, being a naturally curious person. I considered myself as a pakialamero in the organization.
Okay.
When I was in sales, I had arguments with product and marketing. I had arguments with operations,
Okay.
along the lines of just wanting to do better. How can we continue to serve our customers better? And those realizations brought me to the point where if there were new opportunities within the organization, so there was an opening to head product. I was in sales. I was doing well. There's a good set of leaders that can cover. I decided to move into product. So that was core business, right? I was fortunate to be the successor, to be the head of enterprise.
Wow.
Right? And then there came about an opportunity to help in technology, right?
Yep.
To help in the digital transformation of PLDT and Smart.
Probably.
It's geeks rule, right? So, right. So just having that ability to be able to pivot roles, to learn, to be in uncomfortable situations. I think it was, to a certain extent, was able to leverage that, right? And I think I'm not sure if I put it in my LinkedIn profile. I also headed cybersecurity for some time.
Oh, you did?
Right?
Wow.
And especially now, it is definitely a clear and present danger. It keeps you up at night.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's a big risk management exercise.
Exactly.
You spend, as Lloyd Blankfein and Goldman would say it before, you spend 98% of your time thinking about things that have the 2% probability of happening.
Still.
Probably not that extreme, but, again, very fortunate to be trusted by the organization to take on these critical roles. But my give back is I make the most out of it. Right? I learn. I try to bring value back to the org. So,
okay, now I'm curious. I didn't prepare you for this, but there's this term that I recently found out about. It's called expanders. So expanders apparently are people that help you or mentor you to expand and see a different horizon. During this, again, bouncing around from problem to problem that you wanted to solve within the organization, who are the people that help you the most, that allowed you to really come through? Because let's just call it what it is. I've had people who are former PLDT. For example, a person that comes to mind is Mark Concho, founder and CEO of
I know Mark.
Kita.
Hello, Mark.
Ayan, shout out, Mark.
Yes.
But he told me, like, man, the stuff I do now is nothing because the stuff of the intensity of how obsessed I was at work during PLDT prepared me for this.
Yep.
But he said also that a lot of these things were like, I couldn't do it alone because it's a team sport, especially in a bureaucratic setup. You need to get a lot of buy-in because I don't care how good you are, but if everybody's against you, you're gonna get thwarted. So in your and I want to understand who were the expanders for you that help you really level up and also get more people involved over what you were trying to disrupt.
So three people come to mind.
Okay,
First,
give them flowers.
First of all, obviously, MVP, boss.
Shout out. There you
Right.
go.
So MVP's been very inspirational for me. Right. I am still in awe on his ability to really be in tuned to today, but also look out to the future and be aggressive. Right. He's also the guy that essentially tells us to go straight to the point. What is important? Don't go around the bush. What your mission has to be clear.
Yep.
And the hardest question that he asks for us is when he asks, "What do you need?" Because if you ask for it, he's going to give it to you. But if you get it, you have to deliver.
Correct.
So it's then balancing how much do I ask for versus the outcome. But essentially MVP taught me how to be outcome driven, how to really think big, right? So that's one. The second one is still my mentor, my former boss in Enterprise. His name is Jovi Hernandez.
Shout
Boss
out.
Jovi, right? So Jovi taught me of people ask me a lot today if they're like the Boy Abunda question, if you had a superpower, what superpower would you? I've always been saying
I
since
thought it was lights on and lights off.
no. Is what superpower would you have? I've always been, and I sincerely say it's storytelling.
Love it.
Right. So being able to compose your thoughts into things that, it's just not about telling people how much you know, but it's telling people so that they understand. So meaning you're wasting people's time if you just go there and just go through a PowerPoint. It's understanding what is the outcome that needs to be done as part of a conversation, right? So the importance of storytelling is important. I think it's what separates. You see a lot of the very successful folks are actually excellent storytellers. Third person that comes to mind is Boss Al Panilio. Right?
Okay.
So what I learned from Boss Al is really the importance of people and empowerment.
Yeah, he's a sportsman too, by the way.
Which is yes. So it's about how do you establish a culture, a safe space within an organization so that the people thrive. I was telling my story earlier that I paid my dues working overtime 80% of the time for the full year. I think, the younger generation also has to live through that, right? While I still work very long hours, I'd say I worked much longer hours in the past. And I would say because it's the realization that I cannot and I should not do things myself or ourselves, right? We have to empower our teams. We have to set a clear strategy, a set motion, create an environment where people will flourish, learn, and deliver. And that plus also essentially putting our customer as the North Star. Right. So, we're here because of our customers. So those are, so I'm sure there's many more, but those are like the three that popped in my head as
I love it. I love it. Again,
what I'd like to share.
We should give flowers because a lot of who we are, it takes a village.
Yep.
Right? We get so much from our peers, from our mentors and whatnot. But man, what a list. I love it. Like it just goes to show again. You've been using it a lot in the episode. You're lucky to have access to that.
Yes.
Right? Because when you do have access to that, when you have access to a great mentor, you gotta step up. Because when a great mentor, a common denominator among them is they're very demanding. Like FVP would ask you, how much do you need? If you throw around the number you can't deliver, man, you're dead.
Yes.
Your career is over.
Yes.
Right? I remember, I think, who was it? Earl ba? I think Earl Valencia.
Earl, yeah.
Yeah. MVP yata asked him the same thing to start Idea Space. Like, how much did you need? I forgot what he said.
Yeah.
But that number that he asked for basically outlived him and ran the funds of Idea Space for a good 10 to 12 year stretch. Because he chose the right number and delivered on the promise.
Yep.
And because of that, a lot of these startups eventually obviously got the opportunity to jumpstart as well.
That's
That's what I want to ask now before we take our last break. What were those, if MVP was asking for what do you need, what were the key products or solutions that come to mind that when you come to those questions, Nana, MVP will ask you, how much do you need? What did you build that comes to mind that's like, all right, this is a grand staple of what I've done?
Yep. So one thing that we talk about when we have our Mancom sessions is, reference to, Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams, like build it and they will come type of. So in terms of, it's really around building ahead of understanding the market.
Correct.
Building ahead of demand so that when the demand comes up and peaks,
you're ready.
You are ready. You are
basket.
there, right? And where that manifests for us recently in PLD, well, it manifests in a lot of areas. We've been rolling out so many cell towers, fiber ports, but specific to enterprise, it's our investment. We've spent billions, an immense amount of money into building our data centers. So we have 11 and counting.
Wow.
Roughly about a little under 70 megawatts in total capacity across all of the DCs. Investment in submarine cable systems. Before we talk about Mbps, GPPS, our submarine cable systems we're gonna hit 100 tera.
Are you kidding me?
In aggregate capacity in and out of the Philippines, just from PLDT alone before the year ends.
Goodness.
And we need money for that, right? And it's a very competitive market also. So the returns are actually, sometimes lucrative, but sometimes they're not. Right? So at the end of the day, it's managing risk, understanding where to build, placing bets. There's no perfect mirror ball into everything, but it's still better than just waiting for the market to evolve and then you
catch up.
And then you catch up, right? There's no room for that in this day and age, right? And we have to make our bets.
I love it.
And we're fortunate that we have an organization that empowers us with very high expectations, but empowers us to be able to do these things.
I love it. And again, these are foundational pieces. The consumers will always be like, "Hey, mabagal internet, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
You don't know what comes into giving you that top quality things. I remember in the startup ecosystem, they would even always complain. I think even recently, they would even complain na, you know what, the Philippines still have slow internet. Like, excuse me? That's not an excuse anymore. If you go to Singapore and you run your speed test or fast.com, sometimes we're actually faster.
Yes.
Right? It's at par.
Yes.
And in order for you to get to that level, there's infrastructure investments, the deep sea cables, and whatever computing capacity we need to put in the data centers in order to deliver. Because even if the demand is there, if the capacity and the supply does not exist, you can cry all you want, it ain't coming.
Yep.
Right? And again, this takes
Thank you for appreciating that, Ronster.
Again, because I've seen the perspective.
Yes.
I've seen how the real movers do their amazing work that in one project or two can affect millions of lives. I'm also lucky because I got exposed to, oh shit, that's the type of game they're trying to do. Not just like as a startup, I want to be the Grab of my little town.
Yep.
And that's why we're going to be talking on the next break, after we come back. What is PLDT Enterprise empowering startups for? Because if they can do this for the whole country, they ain't stopping there. All right. We're also helping out startups so that they can be beefed up with that type of technology that startups and also companies can use. And of course, we're going to do a deep dive. We're going to geek out now and also talk about the emerging trends of technology that are going to be, again, bets. We can never be Nostradamus here and see. But as of 2025, what are the things that excite you that will be game-changing catalysts over the next immediate future? Let's talk about that more after the break.
Hey, hustlers, before we resume the episode, let me tell you a very quick secret. Do you guys ever wonder how we're able to consistently release episode after episode here in Hustleshare without missing a date over the past 3 years? Well, it's not just pure hustle, because I'm also running my podcast along with me running my startup full time. Now, for some of you who have listened to this podcast, you guys very well know that I created a startup that is designed to help the best podcasters in Southeast Asia to realize their full potential, which is called Podcast Network Asia. And over the past couple of years, we've achieved quite a lot in P&A, helping hundreds of podcasters create world-class episodes consistently. However, what we realize is that we are not really solving the real problem of all podcasters in the world, if we're not going to productize the thing that we're very good at, which is helping podcasters solve the two main pain points of a podcaster, which is number one, nobody really likes to edit their own show, especially if you're listening to your own voice. Just like me, I cringe a lot. Having to listen to my voice for 3 to 4 hours just to release a 1-hour episode. It's no fun. And then the other thing is that most podcasters, just like me, are absolutely clueless on how to properly grow their show, which is something that we have perfected in Podcast Network Asia. So we've decided to put this all in one product that helps any podcaster in the world create world-class shows that people will love and will continuously grow. And that's why we created Pod Machine. Pod Machine is the most affordable podcast subscription service that helps you with your podcasting needs. We've got everything from audio production, crafting designs, and marketing and growth support. So as a podcaster, you can now just focus on the thing that matters the most, creating great content for your listeners. So if you are an existing podcaster or someone that actually wants to create their podcast now, no need to worry. You got a founder's discount by listening here on Hustleshare. So sign up now at podmachine.com. And aside from the free trial that you're going to get as a new user, I'm throwing in another one free edit as soon as you sign up for just as low as $49.99 USD a month to start creating a consistent and world-class podcast. Again, that's podmachine.com and use the code Hustleshare to get your founder discount. So if you have friends that are podcasters and if you want to have a podcast just like this, y'all know what to do. So just go and talk to you guys in Pod Machine.
And we're back from the break. We are still with Jojo Gendrano that told us an amazing, amazing journey. Again, I refuse to believe you're lucky. You were prepared the whole time. I mean, let's just call it. Okay, luck. I also got lucky too. But every time I say it that I'm lucky, because when the opportunity passes you and you're not ready. Wala. And a lot of people go through that. You know, the opportunity will come every once in a while. Sometimes it comes once, twice, or thrice. But if you're not ready to pounce on it, you're not gonna be able to take advantage. But again, I love your story and I love how you gave flowers to the people that helped you along the way. But now it's time to talk about how you guys are also doing that for startup. So obviously there's an angle. Every single Philippine Startup Week, you are a key cog at what that is. You even have your own Digicon, where I went there and I'm like, what the hell? I've never seen this place.
Next one
this
is
full.
in March, and
Ayan, shout out
and
there.
it's going to be in 3 places now. So
3 places.
So we'll have in Soler,
Okay.
and we'll have in Cebu, and then we'll have in Davao.
Oh, diba?
And we're renaming it to Tech Week.
Luz Viminda.
Also.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And
Right.
for all of those startups are much welcomed and invited. Please come, and we'll make it worth your while.
No, I love it. And during the last one, I remember you showcased several ones to really not just be able to that's a pitch of a pitch in front of thousands and thousands
That's
of people.
right. That's right.
You know, who gives that opportunity? Every single time you'll have to go knock the door. Hey, can I pitch or can I send a proposal?
Yes.
Dude, you have the ability to actually give them a sort of like a demo day
Yes.
to get that done. But before we even talk about those little benefits, there's bigger things that you offer the ecosystem. What's the angle? How come you guys are so involved? I mean, I've had a chance to talk to get this in 2016 when I was just building Chatbot PH. But what is the commitment of PLDT Enterprise to the Philippine startup ecosystem, and what are the types of startups that you think would be benefiting the most out of the PLDT Enterprise program?
Okay. So, a loaded question. A lot
Okay.
of things come to mind, but I would simplify. I would start off by saying, where we believe we add value, or our reason for being here is that we want to grow the ecosystem.
Yes.
Right. And in growing the ecosystem, you would think the typical motion would be, obviously we're all over the Philippines, we serve connectivity, fixed wireless, we have tools. But beyond that, I think
nationwide.
it's I call it as like we try to roll out the red carpet while again, I'm not belittling or simplifying the journey because it's very difficult, but we want to be that red carpet. We want to be that foundation for SMEs to flourish.
Of course.
We've been trying really hard. I think we've done a lot, but we need to do more, and we are committed to do more in setting up that ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to say things like we want to continue to lower the cost of connectivity, the cost of tools for SMEs. We're building data centers in the Philippines so that we can 11 so we can lower the cost of AI, the cost of cloud, the cost of storage, the cost of compute. Plus, I think one role of PLDT Enterprise is we're also a conduit into the rest of the MVP group of companies. So we're not just in terms of, we've tried to, we continuously partner with startups. Sadly, though, I think we need better scale. I think there's very few success stories, but we are committed to continue there. But beyond the PLDT group, something that the Maynilad would need, something that the Tollways would need.
Correct.
For example, MVP during our discussion would always say, or even during press briefs, he wants barrierless tollways. Think it's a simple concept, but in the Philippine context, maybe somewhat hard to do. But I'm sure there's a solution there because it's been done in other markets. All right, so again, rolling out the red carpet, democratizing access to tools and technology. But I think also part of what we do indirectly to serve the startup ecosystem is our engagement with the hyperscalers.
Got it.
I kid you not, the amount of time I spend, my team spend, we spend talking to the Eastern and the Western hyperscalers to say, look at us, look at the Philippines. We are a very lucrative market.
Yeah.
We have a great talent pool. I'm in awe as to the number, while we need more, but I'm awe already as to the number of STEM graduates that we have coming out of the Philippines each and every year, right? Is how do we make the global hyperscalers take more notice of the Philippines, setting up their AZs, setting up more infra, investing in DCs, investing in technology, investing in practices. So we're not doing that alone. So a lot of collaboration with, say, the BOI, the DICT. There's a lot. We do our fair share, if not more, of time trying to lay the groundwork. Right. And I guess also I could be wrong, but our mastery of the English language is also our curse. From a startup perspective. If you look at the other startup markets where there's rich startup ecosystems like Indonesia, Thailand, maybe, right? I think a lot of that productivity was driven by the need to serve localized applications and needs, right? So how do we find a way to either enrich the usage of our local dialects, our local language, right? How do we partner with the academe, right? Correct. So it's, again, beyond the usual executions of being there and providing, but it's also setting up the overall groundwork so that we're committed to build an ecosystem for startups to thrive because it is important for the continued success of the Philippines. Right.
And that infra is already there. But can you just give me an example? Because again, I'm pretty sure people are now like glued in, like, wait, Jojo, tell me more. They're not telling me. They're not laid back anymore. Like, tell me more. What are we talking about here? Can you name a couple of, or at least one example of a startup that partnered with PLDT Enterprise or a company that starts with the PLDT Enterprise that really was able to go through the red carpet and go from the end, go to the paparazzi, and all the way to the Grammys per se. What comes to mind and how would that? Because I'm pretty sure people are like, is this B2B lang ba? B2B2C? How can you capitalize on the infra?
So a couple come to mind, but I'd say no one has reached like the Grammys. But I think some has
Emmys.
So say for example, smart Wi-Fi. Right? So smart Wi-Fi, we give good internet in the airports for free. And other places, we have thousands of them all over the Philippines. The foundational platform of smart Wi-Fi came from a startup. And I think over the journey, that startup was actually acquired, right?
Wow.
So there's that. There's motions around how we deliver messages in bulk. Started from inspirations from the startup community. I think even Mark Concio was part of that journey back then.
Chika ba? Was it Chika?
Chika, right?
Okay, there you go.
So our collab with Chika, Wolfpack, right? Those entities. there's entities we're talking to right now. A lot of the motions right now are on IoT, right?
Yeah.
So while this is a an interest area for me. So for those that are looking at IoT solutions,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I think we're delivering a platform. We know the need is there in the Philippines. We believe there's roughly like maybe 1 to 2 million true IoT devices compared to China, where there's a billion IoT devices already in China.
Yep.
The scale
Surveillance
is
sometimes.
there.
Right?
Every car, in
Uh-huh.
essence, is
Right.
already a smart device. It's needed in agriculture. It's
Yep.
needed in building management. It's needed in smart homes, energy management, meters, sensors.
Mm.
Right? The ability to cover the needs of the market and tie IoT systems into their ERP.
Mm.
I think there's a large opportunity for startups and and smaller system integrators
Mm.
to add value from a regional perspective. So a lot of the Philippines is also regionalized. So if you're a startup, don't think that you have to serve Mega Manila to be big.
No.
There's potentially startups that will thrive in Bacolod, in
Yeah.
Cebu, in Davao, and one of my bets is in IoT. Right. I'm sure there's many more stories of that we can
For
discuss
sure.
in later podcasts. But
Yeah.
I think that the major motions moving forward, where I think there should be an intersection, would be on IoT and obviously on AI.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get into because again, we're literally just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But the infra for AI has been there again. Lately, if you've been living under a rock, ChatGPT now has a proper competitor, a proper contender per se with DeepSeek.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing a lot of my geek friends running and downloading so that you can I forgot the name of the program. I think AI Simulator, where you can run the LLM locally on their device,
Yep.
so that the sensors the question, so you can actually listen to search the Tiananmen Square and all that stuff. Para the sensors of the Chinese firewall
Yes.
is off. But given that AI play, these are just tip of the iceberg stuff, and I'm pretty sure you already have the infra there. If you're a startup in the Philippines or in the region, or again the hyperscalers that want to capitalize on such a technology savvy market who loves to consume, by the way, which is very unique in Southeast Asia. How would you capitalize the infra that you guys have? Where are you excited about on where this can possibly go within the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. So, if I may, where a lot of us think why DeepSeek was very profound, while
Yeah.
it continues to be proven, whether I think you can say it's proven, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the pundits have spoken already, but I think what DeepSeek was able to prove was that the cost of entry of AI
Doesn't have to cost a lot.
It does not have to cost a lot. It's not just for the largest of companies. So
Sorry, NVIDIA. Okay.
so we made an analogy this morning, maybe a bad analogy, that
Yeah.
you would think you need a PS5 Pro to run
Crash Bandicoot.
to run an LLM, but you could probably run it on a PS4, or what DeepSeek was able to prove with much less budget, that you can run it on a PS4, right? And considering that you see AI now in every walk of life, so people use it to write articles, to summarize meetings. I use it a lot to go through my calendar in the morning, for example.
Wow.
So what are the meetings that I missed? What are the important meetings? What are right? So while I would say I'm not an expert in using it, but
Okay.
I've been able to leverage. Like, for example, when I talk to my son also, my son doesn't say I would Google search something. Say I would chat GPT it that. So
Same.
right?
You know
Right.
who I talk to when I'm driving anymore? So of course I'll call my wife, I'll call my mom, and I'll call my team.
Yes.
When I'm just generally curious and I love it when I'm driving, hopefully it's not traffic. I'm spacing out.
Yes.
There's a conversation button in ChatGPT, and I'm just literally having a full-on
There you
conversation
go.
with ChatGPT to help me explain or simmer in an idea that I have. I've never been able to do that before. Right? I would literally have to pull over, type something really quick.
Yep.
But now this is super comprehensive. And
It's a
coming from a
template.
chatbot background,
Yeah.
the context, and now it has memory.
Yep.
It remembers what I talked about. Like, hey, it's even proactive. Like, are you trying to do this because you asked this before? Like, what?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is crazy.
One observation at work was, we used to say be sure to fact check what ChatGPT says, but now people use it to fact check what we say,
Yep.
right? So it's essentially it's there. But again, going back to the DeepSeek for
Yeah.
startups is given that the cost of entry is lower,
Yep.
the cost of experimentation, testing becomes lower,
Yep.
right? And another commitment of the PLDT group is as part of our build in data centers. Watch out for investment in GPUs. We want to
Yeah.
democratize access to GPUs.
Wow.
Part of also our, because we know that say something like data localization, the most sensitive of Philippine data, most or some enterprises may prefer it to be local in the Philippines. And for it to be local, if you want to run AI on it, you may need your own, local GPU farms.
Wow.
And we want to, if and when that happens, to be able to deliver the best journey for these entities that really want to do it local, that we give them the best journey and best access to tech. But but again, it's very exciting because it should lower the cost of entry for users, and it should also lower the cost of experimentation and testing and iteration for startups and those that want to get into this space.
That's super duper exciting. Now, okay, before we even wrap this baby up, I want to have some parting lessons here and whatnot. So, leadership. I want to understand, or what's your advice for people who are following that same path? That I always say, people. This is year 6 of me interviewing a lot of founders and also being a founder for forever. You don't have to be a founder and launch your own startup to be pivotal in the tech ecosystem. There's so many roles to play. We over glorify sometimes being Batman. Oh, founder CEO. Well, how many founder CEOs fucking flame out in 1 or 2 years? They don't even get past MVP stage, right? You can be pivotal in this role, in Dara's role, in every other role to help startups at scale. Because it takes a village and it's a team sport. For those people who are in the ecosystem that say are not in the founder role or doesn't have to be CEO, what would be your advice for them to still be able to plow through and thrive in their role and help and have as much impact as possible?
So things that come to mind first would be the importance of being in touch with the ecosystem. So leveraging partners, leveraging mentors, leveraging people because like what's good with Filipinos is we like to help. We so I was thinking about that word, bayanihan. Right. So that's one. Number 2, I think what digital teaches us and scares us is that, by the way, I don't think people use the term digital anymore. But
during the pandemic, it was overused, don't worry.
Yes. The window of opportunity is now very quick.
Yes.
Before, when an opportunity comes up, you can take your time and get in. Now, they literally open and close daily.
Split second.
So the ability and the drive, I think it's more, or the ability, the drive, the passion, the lakas ng loob to jump in, not be scared, learn, right, is immensely important. Right. And if I may share another leadership saying is a wise person once told me, a crisis is when you prove your weight in gold. So putting that into a window of opportunity, it's either you hunker down and you wait, but I think it's been proven that those that take the risk typically or almost always win out in the end, right? And it's an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to prove value, opportunity to show people what someone is capable of, right? That would be my advice.
That's amazing. Now again, we're talking about advice before we wrap this baby up. Yeah, sorry to give you a curveball like this, but off the top of your head, what's the best advice you've received in your career that you still hold through till now?
One was what I said. The other one that comes up that I have not mentioned yet is you need to have a closer's mindset.
Always be closing.
Always be closing, right? We have to be able to we can't be serial. We have to be able to take in multiple things. But the best defense, the best way to handle multiple things that happen is to close. Right?
Yes.
Right? So always be closer's mindset, outcome. Do not let things fester.
Yep.
Do not feel do not feel powerless, right?
Mhm.
There, keep trying. There's
Mhm.
always a way to get to closure on things.
No, I love. You know what? I'm a big fan now. I mean, I was already a fan just looking at the LinkedIn, but I'm a big fan over what you did because it's rare. In technology, majority of the time, it's kind of polarized, and they don't like each other. It's the tech guys who just like to build, don't want to talk. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. They're the ones who's gonna. It's always being pressured during Scrum meetings because they're the ones trying to finish the sprint. And then there's the closers who it's like, push, where they over promise, under deliver, blah, blah, blah. What I love about your story is you marry these two. And you technically just proven that you can be both and do well.
Yeah.
Right?
We have to be. Like, I'm in awe when Elon Musk would correlate the angle of ascent to the cost of launching a rocket, or to the probability of getting to Mars, for example.
Yeah.
Like tying outcomes to technology in the geekiest of ways.
And the best way to get that done is always to laymanize. I remember,
True.
I always say like, Ron, you're not a dev, but I remember my core skill is always sales. But I've learned how to learn it good enough that I can sell it. That even if you throw me random jargon, I would know how to answer that, and that's sufficient enough to get the most important close. So again, Alvin. I mean, Alvin. Sorry, that's your kuya. Why did I call it Alvin?
That's my
But
kuya.
Alvin's your
Kuya
kuya.
Alvin, yes.
Shout out.
Yes.
Jojo, thanks so much.
Welcome.
I don't know why, but Alvin's your kuya, right?
Yes. You know Kuya Alvin?
Yeah, of course. There you go. The Gendranos, ROGs in the ecosystem.
Yes.
Okay. So big shout out.
He's much smarter than me.
No, come on. Again. But again, thanks so much, Jojo, for such an amazing episode. But before I let you go, follow us on whatever podcast app, whether you're listening to us, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you listen to podcasts. If we did say some jargon, it's going to be in the show notes on hustleshare.com. If you also want to support Hustleshare and doing content like this, which again, we're going to keep doing as long as I can keep talking. And eventually, it will be AI who will replace me down the road. You can support us at premium.hustleshare.com. Again, thank you very much, Jojo.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.